Welcome back to Center Stage with Angelina and Remi. And this is a sequel to our earlier video. I'm trying to think of the word.
That's very good.
And we're still talking about our Italy trip.
Yeah.
And our first video discussed the good. And so now we're going to talk about the bad and the ugly. So the first thing that I wanted to bring up that was just excruciatingly painful for me was the flight. Oh my God. And, granted, we did have economy seats, but still, our flight over was a nonstop. And so it didn't seem to bother me quite as bad, but it was also through Delta. So I don't know if maybe Delta, we had a little bit more room. It seems like maybe we did.
Yeah, I think
but the flight was 9 hours and 40 minutes. And although, it was still tight, over, it did not seem to bother me quite as badly as it did on the way back.
It was kind of overnight, too. So I think that was a little bit more peaceful as far as not being restless as much.
Maybe so, maybe so.
At least for me, it helped. But, my legs are real long, so it wasn't very comfortable.
Yeah, it was just, it was so tight. But the one that was so bad was actually the flight back home. And we had lots of things going on that flight, which our flight departed from Rome, and we had a layover in Paris. And the layover was an hour and 20 minutes, but we were all lined up to board. All the passengers were all lined up to board.
It was almost 400 passengers.
400 passengers, yep, that's what they said.
And it was fully booked.
So we're all lined up to board, and we're standing there. I think we probably were in line to board probably a good hour before anything was ever said. Passengers started getting a little unruly. Who wants to stand there, for that length of time, not knowing what the issue is.
Right.
And so finally, we do find out that the whole airport had a full computer. What's it called? It had a system failure. It had a complete system failure throughout the whole airport. And the attendant that was closest to us, who we would talk with on and off, he said, at one point, he said, "You may not even get out of here tonight,"
I must make a point before I forget. We had several days previous talked about certain things that we could and couldn't do. And, we were talking about, people that just have to sit on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And when they don't have to necessarily, they just choose to sit on the floor in a public place.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought, that's not something we would want to do. And we wouldn't be doing that in any near future. And it came to the point where we were standing there for so long, finally, we both sat down had in the floor and had quiche.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and it was very good. It was very. We had airport quiche, and it was good.
It was good. But I didn't want to forget that because it's funny when things change. It's funny what you'd be willing to do.
Yeah, when it gets to a certain point, there are things that you would not think that you would do. That in the right circumstances, you give in to the temptation, and you do what you have to do.
The best quiche I ever had in my life.
It was.
We were so.
Yes, we were starving.
We were.
But yeah, there was a complete system failure, and our plane ended up being delayed by about 2 hours or more.
Yeah.
And but luckily we were able to get on the flight and and get on into Atlanta. So thank goodness for that.
People were a little bit anxious about the whole thing.
Oh yes. Mm-hmm. And
a lot of bad things have happened in Paris.
Oh yes. It can be a very dangerous place. There's lots of things that have happened in Paris. But I also wanted to mention something else that happened on the flight. Was that Remi and I were sitting on the end. There were 3 rows of seats. There was the end, you had the middle, and then the far end. And in the middle row, about maybe 2 sections up, there was an elderly lady with either her son or possibly grandson. She did not speak any English, and she wasn't speaking French, and she wasn't speaking Italian either. I'm not sure what nationality she was, but she was very unhappy, and she let the whole plane know about it. But at some point during the flight, she poops in her pants.
Yeah, she did.
And you could smell it
like this.
Like it was. It was just disgusting. And the same row that she was sitting on, the passengers that were sitting beside her and on down the row, they had taken their scarves and wrapped it around their mouth and nose, and it was a foul smelling.
Yes, it was.
It was just.
She was wearing like a full length
fur coat, with lots of layers under that. So
it was, and I believe it was her grandson. He was, she started beating on him. She was not a happy.
Yeah, she was very unhappy.
Yes.
She was. I don't know if I kind of try to think of scenarios that kind of explain certain situations, but it's almost as if maybe he went to pick her up and bring her back to the States to take care of her, or his family to take care of her, but she did not want to be where she was. She was very unhappy. So that was a memorable experience that I will not soon forget.
No, we won't forget that one.
And let's see. Oh, and our apartment. We had a beautiful apartment. We had our first apartment was a beautiful 2-bedroom, a full kitchen, balcony. It was beautiful. It was very spacious for the area. Because things are generally, very small. The quarters are very small. But this was very spacious.
Yes.
But the only downside was that we didn't always have hot water. During the peak times of the day, the high usage times, we wouldn't have any hot water. So they were having a problem with their hot water heater. But they accommodated us very well. It took a couple of days for them to find another apartment for us. So that, although the apartment we did, the second apartment, it was beautiful too. It wasn't quite as large. It was on a smaller scale.
But that was okay.
But that was fine, and my room had a private bath, and so we had 2 bathrooms in this apartment, and it had the restaurant at the street level. Right. So that was nice having that.
Very nice. Really.
But but the transfer over was the hardest part, because we had to pack everything up, and to move over there, we had to pack your luggage again.
Well, the ugly of the whole thing was we had to give up part of our trip. The
time that was put into moving.
Yes, we had to.
Yeah, because it was about a 30-minute walk. It ended up being about a 30-minute walk.
But what I mean is the move and all of the problems that arose with all of that was we didn't get to go to Venice. And we had planned that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And that was very disappointing for me. Because I was really excited about that. I've always wanted to ride in a gondola. I've always wanted to do that. So for me, that was disappointing. However, since I am an older person, I knew that I could not sit down and bawl scream and cry like a baby.
No, that wasn't going to work, was it?
No, it doesn't change a thing. So we did have to give it back, but that apartment that they furnished us with was very nice.
It was a very, very nice apartment. Wonderful accommodations. I mean, anything we needed was there, and no other problems with hot water.
No problems with hot water. That's right.
but we did have quite a bit of rainy days, and we had mentioned that last episode. But we had more rainy days than we had non-rainy days, and so that that hindered us in getting out and being able to see as much as we could have. It kind of but it was what
That's right.
you just have to deal with it.
Right.
And
that's right.
But
that's why, though, I think that partly that's why we were so glad to have that restaurant down at the bottom.
Right.
It was a lovely little restaurant, and it was right there. We didn't have to go anywhere really, or anything, just down the stairs, and we were
and they served all 3 meals. I mean, they had breakfast. They would serve breakfast as well. So, and one of the other negative aspects of the trip was that Remi lost her cell phone.
Just awful.
And anyone that has lost their phone knows that feeling. Imagine being in another country, and because in today's age we rely so much on our electronics, and more than anything, it's our cell phones. I mean, it is. It truly is. It is our life. I mean,
all my contacts were there. I mean, everything, and so it was very, very. It kind of put me into a tailspin. I think emotionally, because I kept
because you knew you were without it.
Yeah, and I kept wanting that phone because I needed my phone.
Right.
And that is something we'll talk about later in the mental health part. But it's that addiction really that we have now that we rely on them. I mean, it's we are
completely at the mercy of all these electronics now.
That's right. And so that was. I will say that didn't. I didn't fare well with that. But I didn't sit down and scream and cry because I knew it wouldn't help.
Right. That's right.
I have a birthday this month and I'm getting way too old to do that.
And and one thing that I was we had deliberately scheduled this trip during off season for so that the crowds were not as large, and I like I had mentioned before, I was there 10 years ago about the same time of year, and but this year, I mean, everywhere we went there were just massive crowds, and it was just it was a lot different. I was very surprised. But the lines at the Vatican and the Colosseum both were just outrageous. And we had even pre-booked and had reservations. We made reservations online, and it was not, so we didn't have to wait in the reservation line. But those lines, I mean, from the look of the amount of people that were in line, it had to have taken hours. Just, and here we had pre-booked tickets, and we still had to wait. I mean, you still had queues that you had to wait in. You had to, have your tickets validated and all that. So there were still lines, and I was very surprised at how long the lines were, even in our case of having, pre-booked tickets.
Well, it reminds me, it sounds strange, but of Disney World. The lines there will get...
And this is anything, I mean, this is, does not hold a... I mean, the lines that you would find at Disney World still does not hold a candle to what we saw there.
That's the one I can think of.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about, like at the Vatican.
I know.
1,000 people. I mean, it could have been. I mean, because that line wrapped around and you know how, anyone that's been to the Vatican knows how large that is.
It's huge.
And, I mean, it was just...
It was definitely worth.
It still was, but I was really, shocked at the length of lines.
Well, my question would be, since we went in off-season, can you imagine what it's like during the summer?
The peak season. I mean, my gosh, why even bother?
I know. That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
And the last thing that I have on here, the hardest thing that I had to deal with was missing my family. Because I have a little one at home, and so, I wasn't able to sleep very well. And in
she
the
was
beginning,
up all night on the phone.
yeah, I know, I was a lot of the time. But I thought that, maybe after a few nights in, I would kind of get, I don't know, more comfortable with being, this far away from them. But it never got easy. It never got easy. And I did say that was the last thing, but I do want to add something else. I have had the hardest time since being home. The jet lag has been horrible. I mean, we arrived home the end of last week. Here it is Monday. We are filming this on Monday.
Right.
And I mean, I still have not been, I'm still on Rome time. I'm having to go to bed at, like 6 and 7 o'clock at night, and I'm getting up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. And then by midday, I mean, I'm like completely wiped out.
That's true.
And, and so I don't know if it's age or what it was, but I did not experience that last time. I don't recall it being as hard to kind of get back into the routine of things here as it has been this time. So I'll say it's age. I am 10 years older, so...
Well, I do believe that is it. I do, because for me, being, just a few years older...
That's right.
Just a few. It has definitely taken its toll on me. But I kind of thought it might. I thought it might.
I knew that it would. I just wasn't expecting. I mean, because so before it was like a day or two, and it seems like I was able to kind of shake it off and not feel, just so paralyzed by it. But but I have. I mean, it is. Like right now, if I laid my head down, I would be fast asleep. I mean, I'm really having to fight, to kind of stay alert.
That's right, and it's true.
But it's hard. It's a hard thing.
A lot of it is age. Because it just, unless you did it all the time.
Right, and you were used to having to make those.
But it definitely was. And the trip home, though, I will say, was a beautiful flight once we got on.
The flight was flawless.
Very good. But she was still very uncomfortable.
But not the actual journey.
No, it was not good. But
I was very uncomfortable the whole flight. The whole flight.
My knees were killing me. But it was interesting. I met a very nice man that sat next to me.
Oh, yes.
It was in the military, getting some time off. So it was a lot of interesting people, and but it was still difficult. It was. I'm still tired.
Oh, I am too.
Yes, so that's why. If we're not as peppy as usual, that
is why.
Yes.
But well, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate your time, and please like and share, and we'll see you next time.